Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about a topic, homophobia around the world, and what impacts does it have on identities of people who are gays. Definition of homophobia. Homophobia is a discrimination against homosexual people and homosexuality. There are many factors that can cause a person to be homophobic, such as they have strong religious beliefs that disapprove of sex or homosexuality. They have little or no social contacts with lesbian or gay people. They have something happen in the past that negatively affects them. Or they have an anxiety about the possibility of being or becoming a homosexual. Homophobia and its physical impacts on people who are gays. There's 1 in 10 people had become a victim of a homophobic incident by a work college. There are 3 in 5 people had experienced a hate incident committed by a stranger under the age of 25. 91.5% of LGBT students report hearing homophobic remarks at school. LGBT people feel that there's no one at home or at school they can talk to about being gay. There's 1 in 9 students who were subjected to homophobic bullying had a significantly higher rate of engaging in self-harm, poor academic performance, attempted suicide, dropping out of school, missing classes, suicidal thoughts than their peers. On their walk back from the neighborhood bar to the Victorian, which over the years they have lovingly restored, Warren and Mark stop along San Francisco's Polk Street to pick up meal for breakfast. Some wealthy teens from the valley drive into town to bust some facts. Warren dips into the convenience store, while Mark has a smoke outside. As Mark turns to acknowledge Warren's return, he is hit across the back of the head with a baseball bat. Mark's blood and vomit splash across Warren's face. As San Francisco General, Mark is dead on arrival. Subsequently, in 1987, a California appellate court holds that under no circumstances can a relationship between 2 homosexuals, however emotionally significant, stable, and exclusive, be legally considered a close relationship. And so Warren is barred from bringing any suits against the bashers from negligently causing emotional distress, let alone for wrongful death. Another story is in Ovets, Mississippi. After the neighbors discovered that they are lesbians, Wanda and Brenda Hansen received threats of violence ranging from intimidating phone calls to nightly gunshots on or near their property, to discovering the body of a dead female puppy draped over their pierced mailbox. Let's talk about identities. What impacts does homophobia have on identities of people who are gays? Homophobia makes many LGBT youth feel isolated, lonely, and ashamed. It can be harmful to the individuals because it reduces an individual's authenticity of one's behavior, lowers one's self-esteem, and denies or suppresses or an individual's LGBT identity. So the greater the discomfort with one's same-gender sexual identity, the less likely a LGBT individual will come out to their friends or co-workers for fear of negative consequences. The process of forming an LGBT identity or coming out is a challenging process as it involves adopting a non-traditional sexual identity, restructuring one's self-concept, and changing one's relationship with society. And youths who were engaged in transitional identities continue to change their behavior and orientation to match their new identity. The process of acceptance of one's sexual identity, committing to that identity, and integrating that identity into one's life is something that does not end after adolescence but continues into adulthood. Perspective globally. In many African countries, such as Zimbabwe, Zambia, homophobia is legitimized by governments. Criminalization of homosexuality remains strong in 36 countries in Africa, and gay people face persecution and violence from police, employers, hospitals, and community organizations. Progress is evident in countries such as South Africa, where the law has been changed to improve rights for gay and lesbian people. However, it remains to be seen whether social attitudes towards homosexuality have also improved. At the same time, other African countries are taking steps that regress LGBT rights. New legislation was passed by the president of Burundi in 2009, which criminalizes same sex relations for the first time in the country's history. Homophobia in the UK. In the UK, homosexuality has not been a criminal offense for many years, and the passing of the Civil Partnership Act legalized same-sex unions in 2004. However, LGBT people living in the UK, particularly young people, continue to face homophobia in their everyday lives. Research has shown that two-thirds of young gay, lesbian, and bisexual pupils have experienced direct bullying in Britain's schools. 92% of 1,145 lesbian, gay, and bisexual pupils reported being subjected to verbal abuse, and 41% had been physically assaulted. 1 in 5 lesbian and gay people in the UK say that they had experienced bullying in the workplace as a result of their sexual orientation. National Perspectives, Vietnam. Every day in Vietnam, stigma, discriminations, and violence threaten the basic constitutional rights for men who have sex with men, MSM, including access to the information, products, and services that they need for their well-being. Stigma and discrimination also fuel violence towards MSM. A study on gender-based violence and MSM by the Center of Creative Initiatives in Health and Populations (CCIHP) and the Joint UN Programme on HIV/AIDS (UNAIDS) found that violence comes from not only strangers but also from acquaintances in the community and from within their own families. These issues, however, is rarely addressed in programs on gender-based violence and family violence.
Do you know what homophobia is?
Yes, I do.
Do you support or are you against homophobia?
I think I'm against that because, people don't have the right to hate others without the reason.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you know what homophobia is?
Yes, I do.
Do you support or are you against homophobia?
I support it because I hate they annoy.
You know what homophobia is?
Of course, I'm homophobic, and I don't really like homophobia, but still, I am homophobic.
But why?
When I was young, a gay dude tried to kidnap me.
Do you think we should really stop homophobia?
Sure, I want to. I want to, but still.
Do you think homophobia is a good thing or bad thing?
I don't think it's good because you're discriminating people. I'm trying to get over it, but still, my subconscious is going like, oh no, you don't like homos.
Do you know what homophobia is?
Yes, a little bit, not very clear.
Oh, okay. So it's the discrimination towards gay people, homosexual. Okay. So, do you support or are you against homophobia?
Again,
Against, yeah? Why?
because it's not really good thing. I think that is more human.
Yeah. Do you know what homophobia is?
Yes,
Do you support or are you against homophobia?
I am against all forms of discrimination because personally, as coming from a situation where I understand what racism is, I understand the feeling of being in a situation where it's unfair. I understand how that feels, and I would never discriminate against someone who was from a different religion, a different sexual orientation, for any reason, because I understand how that feels.
So, what do you think of homophobia now and back then?
I mean, comparing, I think homophobia is still a problem, and there's still many people who, in many different institutions, that have a problem with people being gay and lesbian. Some sports institutions have problems, some church institutions have problems, some business institutions have problems. However, I do think the fact that we're even talking about it is a good thing. There's huge progress been made since the 1960s and 70s, where there's a lot more celebratory and acceptance of gay people in the world, right? It's not seen as much of a big issue now it was before, but there's still a long, long way to go before they feel truly quality and comfortable anywhere around the world.
Thank you.
Now we all know how bad the impacts of homophobia are on people physically, mentally, and identically, whether they are gay or not. So we should try our best to stop homophobia and remember to participate in 17th of May, which is International Day Against Homophobia.